Okay, what's up, party people? So, I was doing a thing where I'm trying to wait to release something that I've already created multiple videos for, repeating the topic multiple times, waiting to release it for whatever reason that I don't want to release it for because I'm a little bit scared to release it. Okay, cool. And it's so funny because the topic that I'm talking about here is surrender. And so this morning, I eventually was just kind of scrolling on YouTube, which is what I love to do. I love YouTube. And at some point in time, I was just kind of like, why? Why am I not releasing this video about surrender and just the everything that I've been creating regarding this topic? And it's interesting. So for the last 2 months, so before the new year leading into now, I have been exploring this concept of surrendering. And of course, not just as a concept, it's a practice, it's an action also. But it has been something where when I first really started to surrender and even introduced it to myself, because it's not the first time I heard about surrendering, right? It's been all up and down my life the whole time, but I've been pretty like anti, because there's this concept that I convinced myself of, that I needed to control it all, right? And that's something that we can find in maybe our communities, our upbringing, our culture, however it is, somehow or another, we end up convincing ourselves that if we lose control of the direction of our life, if we don't have everything figured out, then there's something wrong with us. And actually, that's a lie, right? That's big, bad misinformation. That's not true. And there's actually a lot of beauty that comes from surrendering. And also at the same time, for these past 2 months, I have been leaning into prayer and leaning on God, the Most High, the Supreme, to even help me with learning to surrender and to stop latching on so hard. So full transparency, earlier last year, maybe like May or June, I officially got anxiety diagnosis, which when they gave it to me, and I was like, I could have told you that. And I was honestly struggling with a lot. Like it was like every pattern that I could ever see myself repeat throughout my life was just like really coming to a head. Like I was being triggered left and right. So many things were happening, whether or not it was with me and friends, me with a lover, or just me with job. I was literally riding the same hamster wheel of feeling like I'm losing control. Oh my God, things aren't going my way. Oh my God, what do I do? I'm stuck now, right? I'm stuck and I'm not doing anything, and I'm just trying to distract myself with travel, distract myself with love, distract myself with food, distract myself with all different types of things. But at the same time, I do have to give myself credit, because last year was also the year that I transformed my relationship with food. That just made me think about it. So I don't want it to seem like everything was all bad, but a lot at the same time, there's so much going on. Even now, there's so much going on. But I recognized at some point in time that me trying to constantly like control all of this, so much going on, was causing me even more anxiety, because it created such levels of unrealistic expectation, and then constant disappointment because those things weren't being met, and then constant emotional grief and intensity coming from that, whether or not I was disappointing myself or feeling disappointed by somebody else. And then a cycle would continue of me being stuck and not moving, and then be like, nothing's going my way, right? And then, of course, time and again, you hear, let go, let God, right? Like really let go and let God come through for you. Let God, let Jesus take the wheel. But just actually like pray and believe that there is a higher order. Because I said it to my friend the other day. I said, if we gonna really believe in the Most High, then why are we over here trying to control everything as if the Most High doesn't have a divine plan already? Yes, we're given free will, but at the same time, sometimes we don't know what to do with that will. We don't know where to direct it. We don't know what is the next thing to do. We look out into the path in front of us and we're like, I actually don't really know what to do next. That is a perfect opportunity to pray, to kneel, to just surrender absolutely, completely everything. Because you don't have to know. That's the key, right? I had to really convince myself, I don't have to know. I don't have to be perfect at this thing. I don't have to know the next step. Actually, it's okay if I'm, just walking in the darkness ahead of me and have no idea what's coming. Because I trust and I know further and deeper than believe, but I trust and I know that the light will be shown for me. The next step will be presented for me. And it won't be a rocky step. It'll be a step that I can step on, plant my foot on, and lift my body up and keep going. Similar concept as like the light at the end of the tunnel, but like trusting and knowing that that is something that is happening and that I don't have to hold on to anything, literally nothing. I don't have to hold on to a single thing, not an idea, not a concept, not a perception of myself, not a judgment, not a shame, not a guilt, not a fear, not a thing, not a person, not a place, not nothing. There's nothing to hold on to, actually. And when you really understand this concept of surrendering, like I'm feeling my shoulders drop every single time I even say the word surrender. And the more that I notice that my shoulders are dropping, my breathing is slowing down, becoming fuller and fuller, which is so interesting because I've been practicing breathwork for some time. But a lot of times I'd wake up anxious and be like, okay, I got to do my breathwork right now, which again, it has helped tremendously. But I wasn't addressing some of the more underlining concerns, some of the more underlining emotions and ideas and beliefs upon the beliefs. I read something recently from Liminal Thinking. It's a book, check it out. And they talked about the concept of governing beliefs, which those tend to be some of the foundational beliefs that we have. And then based off those foundational beliefs, we will build additional beliefs. So if you want to change who you are or change how you operate, then you're going to have to change some of your governing beliefs. And when I read that, I was like, whoa, what are my actual foundational beliefs? And sometimes you may have to comb through multiple levels of beliefs, which is what I had to do in order to get to the concept of, in addition to psychotherapy, shout out to my therapist. But in addition to that, I was able to come to an understanding of like, I'm making not only everything very personal all the time. And I'm not always speaking up for myself. I'm not always doing the thing that I know to be right to do, which is let it go or do something or whatever. Pretty much you know when to act and you know when to rest. Not always allowing myself to rest and not always allowing myself to act for fear of what? Rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of disappointment, fear of all these different things. So all of those things, when I really began to unpack some of these foundational core wounds or core beliefs, I started to understand that I wasn't allowing myself to surrender because I didn't think that that was even something that made sense. Like, why would I surrender control? Why would I not control things? Why would I not do that? I have the ability to control things. Why not control them, right? Why not set all of these constant ideas and constantly try to achieve them and all these different things? Now, of course, that doesn't mean don't have a vision and don't have goals. Of course, it means all those things. But at the same time, the how and the why may not always be clear or may not always present themselves the way that we want them to. Of course, it would be so amazing if God could come down and just be like, all right, this is what you're supposed to do, exactly how you're supposed to do it from here, from birth until death. Just do that. We would all be like, wow, my God, so great. Thank you so much. Same thing if God came down and it's like, okay, this is the person you're supposed to be, that done. Don't question. Don't do nothing else. This is just it, right? It would take a lot of the guesswork and a lot of the trying to control it all work out of it. But that's not really how it works, right? There is intuition. The Holy Spirit does speak to us, right? And does give us information. We do have nudges and understandings and inner knowings that we can't really explain. And so whether or not we follow them or listen to them is negotiable, right? It's based on a lot of different things, situational even. But when we allow ourselves the opportunity to actually surrender to the knowledge, to surrender to the wisdom of the body, the wisdom of the heart, the wisdom of the soul, the wisdom of God, the all supreme being that knows everything, that knows the desires of your heart, and that wants to actually take you there to the full on manifestation of the desires of your heart. And of course, sometimes we may be blocked and rejected from things that we thought so would be for us so well. And maybe they're not, because maybe they're not actually genuinely aligned with our deeper and inner truth. Maybe some of the things that we think we want are kind of based on some faulty governing beliefs or old governing beliefs that are no longer helping us move forward in our life. And so I really just had to ask myself, like, what do I really want? What is my deep, deep truth? And in order to get to that truth, I had to practice one thing that was very clear to me when it came to me, which was surrender. So originally it started with fasting. I started surrendering by fasting, which was addressing what type of food I was eating, So fasting from sweets, processed foods, all those things. And as I continued to fast from those things, I began to realize that if I began to reintroduce those things into my diet, especially without like control or intention, then my body was just like rejecting everything. I was in pain. Then eventually it was fasting from meats, which I have been on and off vegan, vegetarian, pescatarian throughout like most of my adult life. But recently, I've been noticing that if I'm not being intentional about what I'm eating, especially if it's not a baseline of just fruits, vegetables, grains, nuts, seeds, etc., then I'm also going to be in pain. So that includes meat, sometimes seafood, sometimes all types of stuff are just hurting my stomach. And of course you could say, nah, you living in America, you eating that shit. You right. I'm not even going to hold you. If I go someplace else, the food might treat my body better. But since I do live here, it encourages me to make sure that I'm really honoring my body. My body's telling me we only want this, we don't want that. Respect, babe. I'm going to make sure that you're getting the nutrients that you need and that I'm surrendering to the wisdom of my body to make sure that I can feel good and energized and awake and alive in this space. So fasting helped me with the initial surrendering, which I didn't realize at first, that fasting is a version of surrendering. And after fasting a lot last year, like all different types of fast, water fast, different types of food fast, etc., towards around November, late November, December was when I really started to be like, you know what, I need to surrender, not just about food and my relationship with food and the emotional effect that has on me, but also other concepts, right? Because I began to realize that because I was surrendering to my body's wisdom, I felt like I was losing control of my free will to be able to eat what I wanted to eat, because that's how I always knew myself as. But when I realized that, no, if I just surrender my body's wisdom, I actually feel better in my body. I feel more alert, alive, and awake. Merging that with some energy practices, I'm a REIKI practitioner, and doing some self-healing practices on myself, or seeing a REIKI master, or doing some Qigong, or just breath work, or other types of energy cleansing practices, I began to realize that, I'm listening to my body's wisdom is vital. Because also a lot of the ideas, beliefs, perspectives, things that we've heard, things that we've touched, etc., are definitely indeed kept in the fascia of our body, the muscles. Essentially, the body does keep the score. And so when I realized that I needed to continue to surrender to my body, needed to continue to surrender to God's path that was constantly being presented to me, and somehow or whatever, I would convince myself that I wasn't worthy of it, or I didn't have time for it, or this just wasn't really what I wanted to do, and I would doubt it. But every single time that I would allow myself to take time to fast and be in space and to meditate, the same topics, ideas, projects, etc. will come to me with such clarity of like, this is how you do it. It's like, you've been asking me to just give you a point A to point Z. Well, here you go. And so having to deal with what were some of the worries. Why was I worrying? What was the baseline of the worries? What were some of the governing beliefs that were convincing me that I needed to worry? And then I just went down these questions and these prompts for various things. What was I so afraid of when it came to possibly being rejected? Why was I so afraid of rejection? Especially when rejection ultimately is redirection into something that is in greater alignment with you. Especially when something can help you to bring forth that understanding or that knowledge that is needed for you to recognize, oh, I'm holding on to something that isn't helping me move forward. And it could be something that maybe protected you for most of your life, but at this point, it's done. It's over. It has served its purpose and it is ready to be surrendered. That energy is ready to be let go and returned to the universal energy that just is. So I'm just here to drop an encouraging word about allow yourself to surrender in this time and space. Allow yourself to surrender. Surrender to the wisdom that is all within you and all around you. Surrender to God's will. Get on your mat and pray. Get on your prayer blanket, your prayer rug, and pray. Get anywhere and pray. You don't even got to have just a specific space where you dedicate your prayer, but you can if you like to. I do have my own prayer space, but sometimes I need to be in conversation in the middle of the day. And if you follow a specific prayer schedule, like in some cultures, even better, even more lovely, because you'll stick to it. But make sure that it's a personal relationship that you're developing and building with God and thus with yourself. And allow that relationship to transform and to mold and to be all the things that it's meant to be. And as you're praying, send praises, ask clearly for what it is that you need help with. Just be vulnerable. This is between you and God and nobody else. You and God and nobody else. So if you're asking for forgiveness, ask for that forgiveness. Be honest about why you're asking for that forgiveness. Talk about the emotions. Talk about the heavy things. Talk about the feelings. Talk about the discomforts. Come bare and raw to the Most High. And ask for that help. Ask for that direction. Ask for the anxiety to fall, for the fear to fall, for the disgruntled feelings, whatever it is, the shame, the guilt. Allow it to fall. Allow it to fall away from you. You don't have to carry that weight. That's not the purpose of us to be over here carrying immense amounts of weight all the time when we have the Almighty God, the Supreme, that's here to help us and all their helpers. So I recommend, if you need to, you can play around with this concept of fasting. It doesn't have to be just from food. It can be fasting from social media. It can be taking a silent retreat for 3 days a day. It can be fasting from social contact just so that you can hear yourself think. Fasting from maybe some vices that you may possibly reflect on and notice that are kind of keeping you from feeling more confident and from feeling just more certain and allowing things to unfold for you. So pretty much what I mean, vices that can be distractions from your ultimate truth. So I encourage you to play around with surrendering and how that works for you. And everything in between. Ask yourself the big, intense, radical questions. Ask yourself even the nasty questions that you're afraid of to know the answer. Because even still, sometimes myself, I'll wake up and I'll ask myself a really important question or why I feel some type of way towards myself or someone else. And I'll be afraid of the answer, even though I feel it bubbling up out of me. I hear the answer coming from inside of me. And I'm like, oh God, no. There's no way that I could. It's like, yes, that is how you feel. That's how you feel. And that's okay. It's okay. It doesn't have to define who I am. That thought, that feeling, none of that stuff, because I know what my ultimate deeper truth is. And I'm becoming in deeper tune with that ultimate and deeper truth every single time I fast, pray, and surrender. Know who and what you're surrendering to, but also just simply surrender the baggage and give yourself a chance to be nothing but you, the ultimate you. See you next time. And I'll be dropping a meditation very, very soon all about surrender. So be sure to check out Transform Meditations on this, what do they call it? Channel. Yes, that's what they call it, page on the channel. Anyway, see you next time. Thanks for being here. Bye.